super insightful on the topic. So talent plays a role, but I have met so many people, and just think of what a cliche it is that he, she, or they had so much talent, but didn't really end up making it. That is like the common story, right? What we really need to focus on and celebrate is someone deciding what it is they want to do with this one precious life and going after it. Because the people that you are celebrating right now in your mind, in your heart, in your world, they worked their asses off and it was available to them to do so. Now, it's fair to acknowledge that we are in a place of privilege. All of us have relative privilege, even just the fact that we're tuned into this broadcast. And there are, a billion people without access to the internet. There's a billion people who don't have access to clean drinking water. And we should dedicate time and resources into fixing, say, both those problems. And there's a thousand others. But right now, you're here, you're tuned into this thing, and I'm guessing that if you are able to watch this broadcast, that you have much more control over your outcomes and who you want to be, what you want to become, than you think. And sure, there's probably a gap between where you are and where you want to be, and that might be 10,000 hours away. And so for so many people, that's frustrating. I want to give you a different lens on it, and it's that you might be 10,000 hours away, but you're only one decision, and that is the decision to try. That's the decision to try. And it does not have very much to do with talent. It has way more to do. The science is super clear that it's effort, application of effort, and perseverance over time, right? Application of a ton of effort in one weekend and not becoming the musician that Lady Gaga is lunacy, right? It's crazy making to think that you're going to, that your piano skills are going to be as good as hers, or your singing skills or songwriting skills or whatever in a weekend when she's been doing it for 25 years. And we often compare ourselves to those people. It's the wrong thing. Application of effort over time. All right. Good question there, Ray. Thank you for tuning in. My mother-in-law, Linda, just chimed in and said, hey, there's a lot of pages and blank spaces in the book, which are great to journal in. So you don't have to actually go buy a journal. My mother-in-law, Linda, is right. There's a lot of space in the book for making notes. So no need to buy your special journal. I'm going to let's go to YouTube for just a second. Thank you, Chris, for buying the book. Appreciate it. Brandon, aloha from Cleveland, Ohio. Just rewatched your Creative Live for the book and ready to start the book. I'm sick and tired of working at a construction job, ready to become an artist. Love that. I want you to remind you that we are all artists, right? And the canvas is our life. That is the definition of creativity that we need to engage with, not creativity, small c, with popsicle sticks and pipe cleaners and glitter, although any form of art is fantastic. And just remember, though, those three key principles. You're a creator, creativity is a muscle, and it's through creating in small ways that you realize that you can create the life you want. Terry Pruitt wants to know, when designing your system, how do you do that if you have a tendency to need external accountability? And then she asks, how do you find the internal accountability? Well, I'm here to say that this is the reason we're doing this thing, and this is the reason that it's 6 weeks. If you show up every week for 6 weeks, I guarantee you're going to be further along than if you hadn't. So make the commitment right now to show up every Saturday for 6 weeks, and think about that as making a promise to yourself and then keeping that promise. That's one of the reasons I make my bed every day. That's one of the reasons that I do not think about whether I want to get in the cold water. You guys know I'm a cold plunger. I don't think about it every day. I just do it. I just get in the cold plunge at my house, or here at the beach, the cold, icy, freezing cold water. Or if I'm on the road, I take a cold shower. I don't think about it. I've just made the commitment. I know it's a healthy thing for me. I know how it makes me feel, and I just do it. This is about making a habit. And a habit, even the habit of internal accountability, can be developed. Also, there are thousands of people in this broadcast, and these people are like you. So reach out to some of these people, go to Facebook and YouTube and message some of these people and see if you can create an accountability framework, accountability buddy with someone else who's in there. So, throw your name down here if you want to, be a part of this community where you can, you're willing to create partners just on your own. I'm not going to facilitate this stuff. So, again, don't worry about what it looks like on the outside, or that this might mean you're weak, or this is, we're all in this together. This is why we're doing this thing, is to a community of creators. So Terry, look for somebody in this broadcast to who's willing to be your accountability buddy. External accountability is nothing wrong with that. And if you can't find someone in this broadcast, if you search accountability buddy app, there are all kinds of platforms where you say what you're going to do, and then you've got an accountability buddy as a part of the app who'll just check in on you. So that's a great question, Terry. Thank you so much for asking. Okay, the questions are moving a little too fast here. Brain's attention. Josh asks, when I start focusing on my work, I feel like it's better to block out social media and avoid comparing to others. At the same time, I feel like I'm ignoring my community. Aha. This is something we're going to get to in the book, specifically around making time and space for productivity. Now, this as a concept isn't a productivity concept, but the act of being productive is very valuable towards pursuing your creative calling. What I find, and again, I'll support this with science from Angela Duckworth, that 100% focus, or as close to 100% focus in whatever time chunk you can allocate, is a common thread between the world's highest performers. It's wicked focus on whatever it is that you can do. So I like to time box things. And I think social media is something that we've all struggled with as a way, like, especially when someone says, oh, I'm a photographer, therefore I need to spend 5 hours a day on Instagram. Not true. You need to spend 20 minutes a day on Instagram. And you need to start by posting something, not by scrolling. Create before you consume. And then you're free. Once you've created something and shared it with the world, let that be your license for taking in the work of others as inspiration. See what your peers are doing that's valuable, but time box it, and do not let this idea of building community get in the way of you defining what it is that you want, working on the skills that are necessary to get you there. This is a huge mistake. So I'm very I would say loud on the topic of building community. What I find, though, is that people misattribute building community for procrastination. So I do think it's a huge role, and we'll talk about it, in week 5, part 4 of the book, Amplify, about how we build community. So stay tuned. But just for now, I want you to know that you should time box that, and it should not get in the way of all the other things. The making, the doing, the progress towards these goals that you have is way more important at this time than if it's an either or. Now, of course, what you're doing right now is building community, tuning in and asking a question. So I applaud and support you. I just want to make sure that you're not substituting working on your craft for Instagram, which is what most people do. All right. Okay, this is interesting. Aman Batra says, I think I've repressed my creativity so much that nothing seems exciting anymore. I'm still looking for what will spark joy. Totally understandable. Here's the first thing I like to do. I like to look in my past. I like to recommend that others look in their past and what used to bring them joy. And was it a person, a group of people? Was it a mentality? What was the environment like? And when you think about those things, maybe it's nostalgia, or maybe it's a longing for actually doing that thing. Now, a lot of people ask me that with photography. I'll use my own hard-hitting, real-life example. I have achieved every goal that I had in photography and so many more. And so as I look back on the just absolute fondness of my photography, do I still identify as a photographer? Absolutely. I take photographs every single day. My phone has right now, let's look at this for a second. My photos, how many? 49,707, 49,811. And that little gap in my reading, it was because it was updated from yesterday. So I took approximately 100 photographs yesterday. So I still identify as a photographer. And I look back and I'm like, but it doesn't bring me the same joy that it did. When I think about what we're doing right now, the thousands of people are going to be unlocked and be able to achieve their dreams because of a program that, yours truly and the people at Creative Live are putting on right now in order to help you. That totally fires me up. That doesn't mean I'm not good at photography. I've been world class for decades. That doesn't mean that I don't have an interest in working on this, again, the remodel that I'm doing right now with my bare hands in my off hours, passionate about that. I want to then look back, like, when did I get all this joy? What sparked me? What lit me up? And if I don't know where to start, that's a great place. Also, if you missed earlier in the broadcast, asking other people what you're great at, and they will tell you, not just external validation, but just that other person that you know and trust might have some good ideas. So this is going to be a huge topic for next week for imagination, imagining what's possible, and not as defined by your parents, your friends, your spouse, your peers, your partners, your career counselor, as defined by you. This idea that you are driving is super critical. Let's see. On Facebook, who's this? This is Anise. I don't know how to choose what I should be doing. I'm an art director, but my passion is photography. I don't make enough money with photography, so I'm always going back to art direction to pay my bills. How can I end the cycle? Okay, many of you who are subscribed to my YouTube channel have seen this episode of the Daily Creative. I've taken a couple questions there, and I'm going to probably use a few too many words to describe this, but I'll try and do it in as few as possible. And it is this idea of how to transition from one thing to another in career is very valuable. There's a mentality that says burn the boats. You burn the boats, you have to figure it out. Don't make another dollar as an art director, and you're going to figure out how to become a photographer. At some point, I do advocate that leap because there's a desire to hang on at the end. However, I'm not a person that wants to start there because of so much of social conditioning. There's a bunch of other stuff I don't feel like we have time to cover right now. But what I encourage people to do is you have to draw a line in the sand with respect to how you position yourself. And starting to position yourself as a photographer is really important. And if I go to your website, Anise, I want you to have a photography website. This is your website. I do not want you to say, you can hire me for an art director, as a photographer, as a designer, or as a plumber, or as a hairstylist. Or you see, like, when I look at a website of someone who does everything, it's sort of like showing up at a restaurant that serves tacos and pizza and stir-fry noodles. You're like, I'm not quite sure that's where I want to get my food from. And in the same way, I don't think that clients like to hire that. So I want you to take, and if a job comes in as an art direction, absolutely make as much money as you can and constrain the amount of time that you spend doing that, and that you spend marketing that and positioning that, and spend as much time calling yourself a photographer, building your website, your portfolio, your client list as you can. That's not to say that you won't make money if someone asks you to art direct a job. Just try and constrain the amount of time and effort. That is the number one thing that will get you better and more well-known and get your business off the ground. Time and commitment to the new thing. So again, I'm not saying if someone calls and says, I want to give you 10 grand to do this art direction job, you don't say, buzz off, dude, I'm not doing that anymore. You say, okay, because I know that's money I can put in the bank. I can do that in a small amount of time with a little effort because I'm world class at that thing. But I really want to spend as much time as I can marketing, promoting, honing my skills, dialing in my craft, and landing clients in the new world. And think about how you landed clients as an art director. there's probably some liftable and stampable ways that you can generate clients in the photography world as well. I want you to apply those. And if you search my name in that topic in YouTube, you'll get about a 10 or 20-minute video that I made with as a part of my daily creative series that you can get more on it. But Anise, I hope that helps. Again, so many people. We're gonna go for just another, let's say, 10 minutes here. You get your work through recruiters. She says, that's fine, great. Don't tell them that you're not an art director anymore, but spend as much time as you can taking pictures. When the art direction jobs come in, do them, but spend every other waking moment focused on the thing that you want to do. You're welcome, Anise. She's shouting out a thank you. This is interesting. Jamie says, I'm an addict in long-term recovery. You love understanding, focusing on mental health, addiction, trauma, the pathology, and the biology behind it. How can you use your creative skills to build a tribe in this area? Well, I do not know, Jamie, what your area of expertise is. If it is in the area of trauma and you want to help others, I think it's a fantastic way to, you need to develop a craft around talking about it, educating it, whether that's the written word or others. I will use an example of a friend of mine, Mary Angela Abeo. She lost her brother to suicide. And so one of the things that she did is I talk about this in the book, and you can see it on Instagram. She started an Instagram handle and an art project called Faces of Fortitude, where she started through photographing people who were the survivors, were in a relationship or close to others who had committed suicide. She captured their visually and their stories and shared it on Instagram. So she's increasing the dialogue, the awareness of suicide, and doing so in an area where she's an expert as a photographer. And just so you know, if you ask her, if she was here standing next to me, she would say, I was not an expert in photography prior to starting this. She used the Creative Life Studios on the weekends, and because she worked at Creative Life for a long time before she moved on to do this, to this project. And that was a way into the area that she wanted to work on, right? And it was a combination of photography and writing, and it was in an area of passion. I talk about this a lot in Creative Calling in the Amplify section in building communities. If you haven't read the book, again, it's $2.99 right now on Amazon if you're in the US. We talk about the different types of communities, and you can be a joiner, you can be along for the ride for someone else for a while before you actually start building your own framework. But it's through participating in these things that you'll actually start to uncover what it is that you want to do, to experimenting and participating. And so I invite you to, again, go to the 4th section of the book. Be sure to be a part of this 6-week series that we're in here. Check out Faces of Fortitude and look at ways that you might be able to intertwine the passion that you have for mental health and recovering from addiction around your creative expression, whether it's a business, an art project. There's so many ways to slice and dice your passion. I want you to come along for the ride, read section 4 of the book for sure, and check out these resources that I've just shared. Awesome. Let's see, I'm getting some notes from my team here. Grady started a subreddit for anyone who wants to connect in around this forum. Thanks, Grady Lawler. Really appreciate you. For anyone who's a Redditor, speaking of getting unstuck and community, I created a fresh subreddit community for all of us to connect, to get unstuck, and keep each other accountable as creatives. Let's make this happen, family. Go here to Creative Calling. Here, I'll just, let's see if actually, why don't you, Nas, you want to paste that in the comments in as many different places as you can, that subreddit. Thanks, Grady, for starting that. Really, really awesome. I appreciate you. That's just another example, right? This is why you showed up today. It's not just to hear from me. It's to realize, A, that you're not alone, B, that there's so many other people that you can be your support. And when we are all in this together, again, rising tide floats all the boats. And I want to draw special attention to the fact that it is a tough time right now, right? And many of us, myself included, need connection now more than ever. That's certainly one of the reasons that I wanted to do something to have an effect on the struggles that people are happening amidst the pandemic. Now, my belief is this works in a pandemic or out of a pandemic, but it was something that I decided that me and the Creative Live team could do in order to add value. So check out that subreddit. Thanks, Grady. Just love seeing all your notes from Facebook and YouTube and the creativelive.com/TV page. Josh and Aman and Grady and Rob and Nojan and Terry and Jagota and Camera View and BB. Sorry, it's going so fast I almost can't read it. But EL Brunkart says, I'm a photographer. This is my first challenge to say it. Always learning to improve. Many of you know this story, but some of you don't. I made up business cards for myself long before I'd ever made $1 as a photographer, and it said Chase Jarvis photographer on it. And I made that card mostly to help myself swallow the idea of calling myself a photographer. I printed it, I put it on paper, I carried it around for months before I showed it to anybody. And so I want to say congratulations on EL Brunkart for calling yourself a photographer. That's a first challenge that you've overcome. I love seeing it. Soma said she didn't see the subreddit info. Maybe someone on the team here, Nasa, if you could post that in, or maybe Kate Dessa, you can post that in the Facebook. That's where some of these folks, like Soma, for example, some folks are posting on Twitter. Thank you very much. All right, another comment here. I'm going to go for 5 more minutes. We're going to wrap up at 11:30. So TB Ostrowski says COVID-19 and isolation has proven to grow. You've proven growth with your creator pass. It's educational and inspiring. I fully recommend it. Thank you. I thought you were going to have a question rather than a comment. I hope that didn't seem too self-serving, but for what it's worth, we are doing a ton at Creative Live, and the Creator Pass, I think it's right now $149. Maybe it's $249, but I think it's $149 for access to 2,000 classes, y'all. Like, serious business. So, and if you don't have that much, you can afford $2.99. The ebook is on sale there, and again, that's primarily U.S. For those of you who are international, it was just hard to work with international retailers on adjusting the price. A publisher only has so much impact. Those are their own subsidiaries, so it was a little bit harder. Let's see, a couple more questions here in the 4 minutes we have left. Trenda wants to know, what if you're an introvert and not comfortable talking about yourself? The future favors the introverts. Don't worry about it. That's not to say that you don't have to develop a skill of communicating about your work, because the number of people who believe that the work should stand for itself is far too many. And the reality is, you can ask anyone who's created success for themselves that they had to learn how to talk about their work. This idea of just putting it out there and letting it do its thing is just fiction. And you can ask, extroverted creators, introverted creators, many of the world's top, who fall in both camps, and they all agree that you have to actually invoke community. That's what chapter or section 4 of this is going to be 4 weeks from now, rather. But I want you to rest assured that it's a skill that you can develop. And the only way you develop it is through practicing. That's one of the reasons I love sharing the work so much, not just creating it. But if you can create a habit of sharing, of creating and sharing, that's one of the ways that you learn how the market sees your work, learn how community sees your work, place for feedback and constructive conversation. And it's the act of talking about your work, both as receiving feedback and about sharing what your vision is, that you develop it. So community is key. Practice is the answer that most people don't like to hear. Starts with sharing, and this community is going to be really good for you. It's still $2.99 Canadian. TB Ostrowski says that's cool. Grady Lawler says the Creative Pass is insanely worth it. Thank you. Magritte Heistad Carter, I may have pronounced that wrong, sorry. In order to make a living, I need to sell 3 paintings a month. How do I start really believing that this is possible? Ooh, I love this one. If you don't believe in you, who will? Now, I understand that we've all got all kinds of baggage. We've got trauma. We've got the stories that we tell ourselves. That's one of the reasons that I think this book, this community, this class, and Creative Live are totally helpful for reprogramming your brain. You have some default neural networks going on that you're telling yourself a story, and you even admitted it. Like, how do I start really believing it's true? And I just respond, if you don't believe in you, who will? Okay. This is a mindset. It's an opportunity to cultivate your mindset. I cover a lot of mindset in the book. We're going to cover a lot of the mindset conversations in this course. It does have to do with rewiring it, with creating positive messages for yourself, with vision boards and stories, retelling ourselves stories that have hurt us in the past, into making them into new stories that support the vision that we have for this one precious life. Community is also super key. If you're around toxic people who don't share that vision that you have for yourself, you need to find some new friends. It's that simple. And if you can't talk to someone about how you see yourself or how you want to see yourself, then there's nothing wrong with some therapy. There's nothing wrong with practicing. And in everything, the first time you started to walk, you fell down. The first time you played the piano, it sucked. The first draft you wrote of your poem or your book or your essay sucked. So don't expect this to be easy, but I have to tell you, it's worth the journey. It's the most important thing. Mindset is so foundational to everything that we do, whether you're, a creator, an entrepreneur, you don't identify it, you do. If you are here to architect this one precious life, then it starts with mindset. And come along on this journey with us. We're here for you and with you. Max wants to know, why does the future favor introverts? I just think there's a lot of I like underdogs, and I think underdogs, and in this case, we've had an extroverted culture for so long that introverts are often overlooked, and so there's a little bit of an opportunity to catch people flat-footed. And when I say the future favors the introverts, I think that's it used to be about glad handing and it's all who you know, and now gatekeepers are largely removed. And so in a world where historically gatekeepers favored extroverts because it was a largely physical and gate-kept world, there were gallerists deciding who hung on the gallery walls, and editors deciding who got in the magazines and the papers. And since those are largely gone now, or since the barriers are lowered, it opens up a new playing field. And so that's why I think the future has an opportunity for the introverts that is unlike any before it. So, all right, y'all. Jamie and Marcella and Anise and Linda and Chase, not me, Chase, different Chase. TB and Rob and Max and Jamie, Tony. I want to say thank you so much for joining. This is going to conclude today's broadcast. Again, I'm going to revisit the things that I asked just really quickly. Prepare for next week's read by reading the first step of the 3 steps under the idea framework, everything under imaginations at chapter 1, 2, and 3. 2, I'm inviting you to text me, become a member of the community that I can text with. In order to do that, text 206-309-5177. That's it. I think you may get an automated message back, but then it's just going to be you and I texting. I would invite you to use that as a support group for what it is that we're doing here together. Turn on notifications for Insta, because we're going to be doing some channels there, or challenges. That's easy. Hit the 3 dots. Turn on notifications for my stories and my posts. Invite some friends, and lastly, if you're willing to take 2 minutes, if any of this or anything I've done for you is valuable and you're willing to go to Amazon and write a review, it would be most gracious, because it's one of the ways that we're learning that the algorithm will surface Creative Calling and help it stay in the #1 slot, as you all made it #1 in a couple different categories this week, which warms my heart. So if you got any value, this is free. Maybe that's a thing that I could ask of you. All right, then. Signing off. So excited about this group, this platform, this community. If you have any questions, hit me up via text. And signing off for now. I'll see you next Saturday, 10 a.m. to discuss the I, imagination. Can't wait to see you again soon. Signing off. If you're feeling isolated and looking for creative connection, try tuning into creativelive.com/TV. That's where we've got a 24/7 live stream from the kitchen counters.
I can do that backlit shot that I really like to do.
From the studios and living rooms of many of the world's top creators, where we're doing musical performances, Q&As, cooking shows, virtual book tour events, drawing, spoken word poetry, and more.
Life passed me by waiting for an invitation when the world is greater than my nation or my occupation. Be someone you've never been. You feel all that adrenaline, it's medicine.
It actually helps me feel like my days are more purposeful.
I hope that out of this deep pain will come some collective growth.
Dive into Creative Live TV today.